This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC. This one I'm a little bit confused about because apparently some things were swapped by the owner in an attempt to get it up and running himself. And I don't blame anyone for doing that, especially when it takes us a few days to get back to the inquiry. So if you submit a form to have your system potentially fixed for free in this playlist, it's linked below. We can't always respond right away. On the flip side, I understand if you need your system up and running as soon as possible and you take matters into your own hands. Unfortunately, for this owner, the matters that he was trying to handle didn't exactly pan out the way he was hoping. And so this system, as far as I'm aware, now powers on, but doesn't send a signal to a monitor. And that is unfortunate because this is a pretty nice system, actually a pre-built from iBuyPower. It was working good for about 2 years. It's not super high-end or anything. I think it has a 4060 or a 4060 Ti, but it is a solid, I would say, entry to middle of the road gaming system. But when it's not sending a picture out, you can't really do anything with it. So that's what we'll seek to rectify in this video. I hope you will stay with me. If you're looking for a turnkey gaming PC, consider Stormcraft and their hand-built Sirius model, powered by an Intel Core i7-14700F and a 16GB NVIDIA RTX 5060 Ti. This combination results in exceptionally smooth gameplay, as you might expect, crushing titles in both 1080p and 1440p at high frame rates. Stormcraft have also outfitted this with 32 gigs of DDR5, a 2TB Gen 4 NVMe SSD, and enough RGB to signal incoming vessels. Combine all this with exceptional airflow through an airy dual-chamber chassis and a plethora of fans, and you've a stunning PC with all the bells and whistles needed for an exceptional gaming experience. You can learn more about the Stormcraft Sirius and others powered by the Intel Core i7-14700F by clicking the sponsor link below. Let's kick things off right away with specifications. I quickly glanced into the form to see what they were exactly. It's a 4060 Ti from MSI. There's a B650A motherboard in here and a Ryzen 7 7700X, 32 gigs of DDR5, which is definitely not cheap nowadays, and it looks like a 240mm AIO to cool things off. Again, the case is from Height, which I believe is either owned by iBuyPower or iBuyPower owns Height, whatever. They make some pretty cool looking cases. This, I think, again, it's a Y60 or a Y70. Sort of has like a fish tank vibe. Some folks really like that, some folks don't. I think it looks really cool, and it sort of elevates otherwise, again, more entry-level modern components apart from maybe the AIO. There is a power supply in here, again, that was swapped by the owner in an attempt to get the system up and running. It looks like it was an exact replacement, however, because I have the old unit here. The owner wanted me to test this for him as well. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these smart power supplies from Thermaltake. Thermaltake makes some decent power supplies, but this smart lineup is really not, I'm just not a fan. And so what I often like to do is swap these out. What I told the owner he could do at the end of this video, I'm probably gonna end up upgrading this one for him regardless, so he can return the one that he just recently purchased, trying to get the rig back up and running. So he'll get his money back there, and he'll get a nice upgrade just to be on the safe side, because you don't wanna throw a weak or failure-prone power supply into a rig with a bunch of nice components. Oh, and I suppose I should mention what exactly you're watching. For folks who are new, this is Fix or Flop, a playlist where we attempt to fix broken gaming PCs for free. So the owner here is not going to be charged for labor, not going to be charged for any replacement parts if necessary. I wouldn't be able to do this. People say, oh, Greg, it's really nice of you to do this stuff for free. I can only do it for free because you watch these videos. I make way more money on the back end than I ever would charging labor and like slightly marking up parts prices or whatever like weird stuff I'd have to do to make this an actual business. YouTube is my business, social media, online stuff, and it is just so awesome that you guys are willing to support us in this way. So thank you so much. It allows us to help folks out in the area, and I think it's a pretty cool thing we've got going here. So hopefully we can keep it up, although I'm obviously not wishing ill will on any system. I've been setting this up low key. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we attempt to fire this rig up. I think the power button is like somewhere weird on this case. It's like, where is it, in the middle? There it is. All right, so this is as described. The owner did also mention in a text that this rear fan would light up but not spin. That's probably a simple wiring issue, though the fan might actually be dead. It does not look like we're gonna get a post. It would be smart of me to actually power the screen on first. That would maybe help out a bit. Let's see if that changes anything. No, it has not. we still have no signal. Alrighty then, we are on the same page. That's good news. I know it obviously sucks for the owner to have to go through this mess, but being on the same page means that my troubleshooting steps should be fairly straightforward. So in a situation like this, I like to work backwards. If we aren't getting a signal to our monitor, what's the last component that touches that monitor? It's the graphics card. And if it wasn't the graphics card, if we had integrated graphics, I would say it would be either the CPU or the motherboard. You could lump them into the same category of platform, but you would ultimately have to narrow down one or the other. If we assume that our cables work and that our monitors work, yeah, the graphics card would be my first check. And we can jump to this step for a few reasons. Firstly, this fan actually is spinning a bit, but it's making some interesting noises. I think maybe it's like over torqued against the chassis. It's bending a bit because it does seem to get better when I pull it forward. We'll focus on that later. But firstly, I've already cleared the CMOS. Sometimes I forget to show that or even mention it in videos, but that's like the number one because it takes like 5 seconds. Secondly, we don't have any Dr. Debug LED or set of debug LEDs anywhere on this board, which is unfortunate. That makes our job a bit harder. Now, we do have a speaker header. Most boards will still have this. And I get folks every now and then, Greg, why don't you plug in a speaker? That would tell you your problem right away. It mostly doesn't work that way, my friends. I have so many of these things, and none of them ever wants to play ball. Just to give you a quick demonstration here, just powered up, and you're not gonna hear anything from any of them. They just don't work like they used to. I'm not sure why. And yes, I triple checked just to be safe. This is the correct pinout for this board. So do me a favor, the next time you see someone in the comment section scream at me for not using speakers, Greg, that's basic troubleshooting 101. You don't know what you're doing. Get off the internet. Maybe just link them the timestamp to this video. Just mention this once and be done with it. All that to say, this card is coming out. Also, yes, I have checked that all major connections are sound. This is not a modular power supply, and everything up here was buttoned up correctly. Is this thing clipped in somewhere? Yep, over there. Okay, and there we go. And since we don't have integrated graphics with the 7700X, I'm gonna throw in a known working GT 1030. This is probably the first time anyone's ever turned their 1030 sideways. This looks pretty stupid if you ask me, but we're just gonna rock with the riser for now. It is a prone failure point, however, and so we'll probably remove it for the next test if this doesn't fix the issue. This will just kind of get us there incrementally. If we do get a picture out now, then it's very likely his 4060 Ti is dead or dying, which wouldn't be fun to replace because those are not necessarily cheap. I don't have tons of those laying around either. Come on. Actually, should I be rooting for this? Probably not. I hope this doesn't fix the system. Yeah, let's go with that. Please don't work. I'm rooting against this right now, and it looks like, yeah, looks like that card is okay. Right. What do we do now? We can bypass the PCIe riser. Problem is this case really only works with like small graphics cards. If you mount them horizontally, you have to mount these bigger cards vertically in here because of the way that the PCI slots are arranged at the back of this case. It's one of the downsides, I would say, to using this case from height, is it sort of forces you into a certain graphics card layout, which might not be for everyone. Typically, I just go with what works the most consistently over time, and that usually involves not having a riser cable at all. They've gotten better over the years, but they're still a little finicky. All right, so we can turn this off. We're not getting a picture out. It's probably a good thing. In all truth, the riser is probably fine. It's only one of several potential failure points in this rig, but I want to rule it out quickly since we're on the whole graphics card trail. I've actually removed the rear I/O shield from our 1030 so that it's very slim and it will slide into the PCI slot directly to bypass said riser.
A few moments later.
Alrighty, looks like the riser cable's not the issue either. We're gonna need to go deeper. How about RAM seating? This is a common theme with systems that do not post. I probably should have checked this before graphics card stuff because this is a little easier. I'm just gonna push on both the top and bottom. That one's fully seated. Let's check the inner. Yep, same thing. So those look good. I think I'm just gonna remove both and swap with one known working DIMM. That surely will rule out DRAM as the cause. I always like to take the set and hold them at certain angles to check for missing SMDs In this case here, it looks like everything on both DIMMs is where it should be, nothing broken, nothing missing, and the pins as well as the socket, or the slot I should say, in each is also clean. So one known working DDR5 DIMM later, and still, oh, whoa, okay, hold on. It didn't post for a while. I think it actually was training memory. Now that I'm thinking about it, I did not expect that to work. I was about to say still nothing, but that is very clearly a post. Do we have a defective DIMM? Why is this like the second episode already? We're, what, 4 episodes deep in season 7. DRAM prices skyrocket, and 2 of our 4 episodes has defective memory in it. All right, let's figure out which one is defective. Hopefully not both. And the easiest way to do that is to swap in one at a time. Now, I don't want to rule out maybe a dead memory channel or defective controller or something. Maybe on the CPU side, we could have a communication issue through the motherboard. But if we notice that one of these DIMMs doesn't want to play nicely in any slot, then it should rule something like that out. And just like that, first try with an original DIMM in the same slot where we got ours working, we don't get a picture out. That's no good. Now, this still doesn't totally rule out a defective channel or something, because it is possible we have more than one issue here. But the fact that our DIMM worked in channel A and this DIMM is not working in channel A tells me that we're probably on the safe side, at least CPU and motherboard wise. Let's try the second original DIMM now. Nice and easy now. This is probably the simplest way to do things. I mean, you could check with a different system, but since everything else seems to be okay so far, just swapping from DIMM to DIMM is the quickest way to rule out a defective one. Also, while we're waiting, you may have noticed this fan here hasn't been giving us issues over the past few clips. I'm sort of surprised. I think it really did come down to just mounting pressure and maybe a slight warpage of the fan frame. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit baffled by this. 2 defective DIMMs? This second one's not playing nicely either. No picture out. It's been 2 minutes or so. That's plenty of time for a board to train with a single DIMM. I'm not sure why both modules appear defective. What could have caused that? Now, just to be consistent here, and I don't mean for this to take too long. I don't want to drag out a video that doesn't necessarily need to. I'm going to turn the system off. So this is that second DIMM. You see we get no post. Hopefully the glare's not too bad from this angle. I'm going to turn the system off, and then I'm going to swap in our known working Corsair Vengeance module. And that is, I'm assuming, going to work. It's going to be in the same slot. It worked the first time. So unless this thing is just being finicky elsewhere, I think this will result in a post. I'm kind of finding this hard to believe. How could both DIMMs have died, but everything else appears to be okay? Unless we had some weird surge somewhere, maybe the power supply, which, you know, that, like I said, it's probably gonna be changed anyway. Look at that, it boots up right away. So it's not me. It's not me. It actually is this kit of RAM. Both of them are just cooked for some reason. And not that I expect this to also be a problem, but just to rule it out since we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and move this to the outermost slot. So this should be channel B. This is slot B2. Let's see if we get a post now. It's probably not gonna like the fact that I chose the outermost slot to populate first, but we're just looking for a quick post to rule out other issues, maybe with the board. It could be, I don't know, I doubt it's board related, because why would a board be this picky? And there we go. So, yep, I think our original DIMMs are cooked, chat. Wish I had a better explanation as to why neither of these is playing ball. The odds of one of them going bad are already pretty slim. Like, you don't see DRAM just randomly die every day. The odds of 2 dying in the same system at the same time, that's a little suspicious. Interesting. So if you recall, the owner swapped the power supply. Again, trying to get it to work with the hardware he had at his disposal. Apparently it is pretty important to him. It might be like a side hustle or something, what he uses a PC for. And so he was trying everything he could. One other thing he tried that I didn't mention earlier, he removed both sticks of RAM and then reinserted only one of the 2 and got it to work for what he says was a little while, until he tried powering the system on again a bit later, and then it wouldn't work with either DIMM in any slot. So this this setup maybe killed both of his sticks slowly over time. Like maybe one died earlier than the other, and he found the one that didn't die, stuck with that, and then that one also ended up dying at some point. Whether the board did that, maybe it overvolted, or the power supply, or maybe the DIMMs were just already super fragile from the start, there's really no way to tell with the limited hardware that I have at my disposal. I actually think our best course of action is to stick with the original plan. And that is, first and foremost, to swap out the current issue, that is a dead kit of RAM. Secondly, swap out this low-tier power supply just to be safe, and I wanted to do that already anyway. And thirdly, update his BIOS. Again, just to be on the safe side, it is possible, though very unlikely, that this board is pumping way too much voltage, let's say, or trying to get these DIMMs to run at, unrealistic frequencies and unrealistic environments, and it's slowly killing them with time. A BIOS update should, in theory, fix that problem, though it sounds like the owner's already tried updating BIOSes on his own. Let's quickly verify the revision we are on. We'll cross-reference that with the support page of this motherboard. Looks like, where do they put BIOS revision? There we go. So it looks like 3287 is the one we're currently on. Also, whoa, what is that CPU temperature? We're just in the BIOS and we're at 70 degrees Celsius. Okay, something just crossed my mind. It is likely that since this pre-built was assembled a few years ago, this AIO date range may overlap with when so many of these units, others from MSI especially, and even the likes of Lee and Lee, were experiencing premature clogs in their loops. And I think it was because of a big batch of coolant from a supplier somewhere in China, I believe. We're probably dealing with something like that here. And there's no reason why our temp should be this high in the BIOS where we're essentially idling. His voltage is also pretty dang high, so I'm gonna do a sanity check here in advanced. I know I cleared the CMOS, so there shouldn't be anything sticking. I think a good chunk of this issue though can be solved with a more appropriate BIOS update. I'm hoping that's the case. I take that back. This is actually one of the latest revisions for this board that is stable. All right, there goes that option. Yeah, this is cascading very quickly. A lot of stuff that technically isn't related to the no post symptom is now beginning to rear its ugly head. I wanted to replace the power supply, and I want to actually follow through with that. So even though it looks like the system is otherwise stable with this cheaper Smart Series unit, it's going to get replaced. Our sponsor Be Quiet is going to hook us up with that one. It's going to be a huge help, I think, for the owner long term. So that's going in. The second thing that I think we need to do at this point, because of how hot this chip is running at idle, that is nuts. 70C in the BIOS is crazy. I think we need to take this AIO out. I think we need to swap it with another. I might have a 240 from Be Quiet that we can throw in. I really like their Pure Loop AIOs. They have a pump in a different location though, so you have to be a bit careful there. But otherwise, quiet fans, quiet operation should be a pretty fair swap. And then we have the DRAM situation, which I hate that there's so much wrong with this rig. I guess we're doing all three. Now, I know what some of you are gonna say, Greg, don't do that. Come on, he's gonna take you for a ride. Obviously, he's planted most of this defective stuff in here, and you're just being conned. That tends to be what a decent chunk of the comment section says. Anytime we have to replace more than one component. Folks, sometimes more than one thing fails. Sometimes they are completely unrelated to each other. It looks like the AIO is on its way out, so it is failing, and that is DDR5 has failed. And that could have, again, be because of multiple things, possibly an overheating CPU, possibly a sketchy power supply. So we're just gonna play it safe on all fronts. I don't think any of this is staged. Like, how can you stage a clogging AIO? And again, it wouldn't surprise me that this brand of AIO is clogging because we have actually seen this exact or near exact model clog in the past. We've done a very extensive deep dive into clogging AIOs that seem to all be sourcing their coolant from the same distributors or manufacturers in China. So I'm going to triple check before we dive any deeper that his graphics card is not cooked as well. If his graphics card is cooked, then there is a 100% chance that I am not replacing it. It's not because I don't want to be a nice guy or anything, it's just because I've already thrown too much at this. I just want to be on the safe side before we dice up anything else in this rig. And then I also want to connect supplemental power there. We'll get HDMI connected at the back, and then we will power on. Let's see what happens. So So we have my known working DIMM installed currently, and there we go, we got picture out. Okay, whew, 4060 Ti works. That's, at this point, that's a relief. And we've also just inadvertently confirmed that his rig does load into Windows. There is a boot OS on his singular boot drive in here. And yeah, system's getting pretty loud. Obviously, because it's likely overheating, just doing what it's doing right now. We're just gonna click this button once and let it power off. And we'll start disconnecting all of our relevant power cables to get this PSU out of here. We're gonna do a pretty big gut job on this system. So power supply is coming out as well as this AIO. We're gonna have to repaste, of course, and rewire primary stuff. It's yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but it comes with the territory. Every now and then you run into a bad apple like this rig here. It just has several things wrong with it, and I can't get myself to give this system back in this condition. Not with the temperatures the way they are. So bye-bye cheap Smart Series unit, and hello Pure Power 12, a 1,000-watt power supply from Be Quiet, a company that's been a long-time supporter of our Fix or Flop playlist. So right away, a huge bump in wattage. It's gonna be way more than the system needs now, but you could always migrate this to a newer platform, a newer graphics card or something later, and have that headroom, peace of mind. It does go a long way. Power supplies are things that you just wanna be one and done with, and that's why, you know, it doesn't make sense to like throw $300 power supplies into $1,000 systems, but for a build of this caliber, in my opinion, a Pure Power 12 makes a lot more sense. It's not fully modular, which should save you some money, but it is, again, it's got a great efficiency rating, 80+ gold certified, and it's also got Be Quiet's warranty, which is always phenomenal on units like these. I think anywhere between 5 and 10 years for most of their power supplies, and that is peace of mind in my book. If a company is not willing to put a great warranty behind a product, in my opinion, they don't have a lot of faith in it. And since a unit like this has the potential to kill a lot of stuff because it's connected to pretty much everything in your system, it just play it safe. Take it from me. I've been using Be Quiet power supplies long before they ever decided to support us on the channel. I met Christian Rex, who was at the time the technical director of power supplies and other sorts of marketing in Be Quiet. And you could just tell from this video here how passionate he was about his work. They do so much testing when they design these units, and I'm happy to say that we are still working with them today. So if you want to show them some love, in the description, again, we're gonna have this product linked as well as the Pure Loop 2, which I'm about to show you, which is their AIO. We are all buttoned up back here. You can see we've got the unit installed and most of our cables run. Same goes for the left side. I just wanted to tuck this 8-pin in a bit more. Now out comes this AIO. Easy does it. And in goes our Pure Loop 2. We're gonna orient this tube side down. I normally try to avoid this look. I think it looks a bit strange, but in this AIO, it is paramount because the pump is actually in the tubes, which of course has gotta be way down here. If you have the tubes protrude up top, it's possible you could get air trapped in your pump, which could kill things prematurely, and then we'd be, you know, back to square one again. That's the last screw, and we'll get the block mounted with fresh thermal paste. I always like to stick with the X pattern, though doing it with the system standing up was probably not smart. I'm gonna move his two known working fans from his AIO. These are, again, RGB capable, so we're gonna illuminate things by moving them up top. This will add some exhaust, since the one at the rear, I just checked, is starting to be all wonky again. These two we know work. It'd be a shame not to put these back to good use to help with airflow. And swap that broken RGB one for one of the black ones that came from his AIO. We're just recycling, moving things around so that everything works. And finally, to complete the set, we've got two known working Vengeance DDR5 modules. These are 16 gigs a piece, about the same speeds as well. The only thing these don't have is RGB, but I don't think at this point the owner can be all that picky since he's got so much wrong with his rig. And here goes the second. This one has its upper tab broken. Not sure how that happened, but it shouldn't affect performance because it does fully seat in. This entire side of the office is still a disaster, but I don't want to clean anything up until we know for sure that this works. I'm crossing everything I got. My fingers are pretty nasty. There's a lot of dust on them because this rig is not super clean. Let's power it up and see what happens. Oh, you know, I should probably power up these RGB fans up top. One sec, there's a hub back here. That should be the first, yep, and there's two. Alrighty, oh, and there's our post as well. Okie doke. That's, whoa, that is a relief. We've still got a cable management bit behind the motherboard tray, but I just wanted to make sure this was all gonna work. The fans for some reason are not RGBified anymore. They might be overridden by some sort of software, because it just happened right when we loaded into Windows. I'm not gonna mess with any of that. I'm not gonna sign into Windows. I don't need to. I typically avoid that anyway for security reasons and liability. The graphics card fans have turned off, I think because it's idling. The one unknown that I wanna check, we'll go ahead and just restart the system here. I wanna see if BIOS temps look any better. I'm just gonna spam the delete key a few times. Someone said you could just like keep the delete key depressed and it'll throw you into the BIOS automatically when you restart, but see, that doesn't work for me. It just pushes me into the operating system again. So I think you have to spam it. Now that is so much better, since on the cooling side, the AIO is the only thing we changed. I think it's safe to assume that the previous AIO is in fact clogged. And I wouldn't normally jump to this conclusion, but unfortunately we have a bit of experience in this arena. And yeah, it was screaming that something was wrong internally. Also noticed he was missing a thumb screw back here, so we'll fix that for him. And a DOCP toggle. A few reboots later, it looks like the rig is finally stable again. It loads into Windows every single time. Oh, and with much better temperatures this time around. Had we not noticed how hot things were in the BIOS, it's possible this rig might have shown up in a future Fix or Flop episode again. And there's no telling how much performance loss the owner was experiencing, maybe not even knowing that temperatures are running hotter than normal. And again, I suspect it's because of this guy right here. Now, it is a bit dusty, just to be honest with you guys. Yeah, that's a lot of dust, but that's not gonna make up for a 40 degrees Celsius delta. Not even close, maybe a few degrees if you're lucky. Ask me how I know. I think it's this guy right here. I think in this block where those heat fins are, very, very fine fins to increase surface area, there's probably a decent clog, which wouldn't be unheard of for older iBuyPower AIOs. But more on that in a future video. Unfortunately, I have to call this one here. I have spent what feels like all day on this machine to get it where it should be, where I'm comfortable returning it to the owner. Again, loading into Windows, I mean, even getting a picture out, right? That's a huge win. We no longer have those temperature problems we had before. There was so much wrong with this system when it first arrived, and I'm happy to report that, at least from what I can see here, all of it has been rectified and then some, again, with that Pure Power 12 power supply, just to be on the safe side. Again, those Be Quiet sponsor links are in the description. Show them some love. We appreciate their support and yours. I really wanted to throw everything, including the investigation of the AO, in the same video, but again, there's just been a lot going on in this one, and I'm ready to call it. So stay tuned. Possibly the next upload, maybe one shortly after that, we will have a deep dive into the suspected clogged AIO from iBuyPower. We'll see just how bad it was, and if that could explain why temperatures in the BIOS were exceeding 70 degrees Celsius. Again, if you or somebody you know has a broken system that could chance to have it fixed for free in this playlist, be sure to click the form linked in the description. There you can submit photos and a brief description of your issue, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to click the subscribe button. Your subscriptions go a long way. Thank you so much for trying to get to 1 million subs at some point. I'm not gonna be picky. I don't have a timeline in mind. Just whenever we can get to it, that would be so cool. And I've already made a commitment to you all to shave my head completely. We're gonna go just down to bare skin. I'm talking like razor blade right onto the skin to, yeah, just to celebrate. I don't know why we decided that was what I was gonna do. I think somebody commented that and I just rolled with it, but we'll get there eventually. Your support, clicking on these videos is massive. So again, thank you so much for all of that. Maybe consider sticking around for the next one as well. My name's Greg. Thanks for learning with me.